Well, carbon tax Carney and the heat pump hustle have come to town. And we've learned about the lobbying efforts that carbon tax Carney has been undertaking to enrich himself, using his access as a special advisor to the government in the UK. And it's really interesting, the similarities to what's happened after carbon tax Carney was named the de facto finance minister by this prime minister. When the prime minister lost confidence in his finance minister and he brought in Carney, we saw the exact same kind of behavior that we've seen from carbon tax Carney in the UK. And that, of course, includes, within hours of his being appointed to this role, where the Prime Minister is shielding him from Canada's conflict of interest laws, notably the same laws that Prime Minister was found guilty of breaking twice, broke the law twice, that Liberal Prime Minister, just like his Public Safety Minister broke the law, just like their Trade Minister broke the law. But he's shielding Mark Carney from that law because within hours of having been named to that position, what did he do? Well, he thought he'd start by doing what Liberals do, and that's help out their buddies. A $2.14 billion loan for his friend who runs Telesat. Now, the Liberals got really upset when I talked about how there are market-based solutions, of course, that could do much cheaper what they were proposing to do. But it wasn't about solving high-speed internet. It was about enriching their friends. What else did Mark Carney do in his first week on the job? Well, he tried to get his hands on $10 billion pension dollars in a scheme for Brookfield, the company that he's a CEO of. And in that same first week, what did carbon tax Carney do? Well, he decided that he'd let the Prime Minister know, you need to change mortgage rules so that we can have longer, larger insured mortgages. Well, why would they want it? Why would carbon tax Carney want to do that? Of course, because Brookfield, the company of which he is the board chair for, is the second largest private mortgage insurer in the country. This is what they do. They help out Liberal insiders all while Canadians struggle just to get by. So what's the upside for Canadians with the appointment of a de facto finance minister outside the bounds of the obligations that public office holders have, the ethical rules that these Liberals can't seem to stay on the right side of? Well, we know that he's looking to succeed the Prime Minister, and obviously the Liberal Prime Minister wants to displace the Finance Minister as a contender for that job. But when you boil it all away, it's another Liberal elite who wants to help his friends and Liberal insiders. While Canadians are lined up at food banks in record numbers, 2 million Canadians using food banks every month. A third of those food bank users are children. We have 25% of Canadians, according to StatsCan, who don't know where their next meal is going to come from. That's the legacy of these Liberals who are so determined to help out their friends. I'm sure we'll have a non sequitur answer from the parliamentary secretary talking about anything other than their failure to actually represent what Canadians need. That's accountable government, an institution they can trust.
Parliamentary Secretary to the Leader of the Government in the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. You know, and the member opposite is true to form. There is no one that's any better than being able to stay focused on the issue of character assassination. And you don't even have to be an elected politician at times, Madam Speaker. You know what I find interesting? Look at how many times he tried to get that message out, carbon tax, and then lists off another individual. Yeah, I know what it is, because I've also seen the email on it. The Conservative Party actually has a fundraising email, which is virtually what it is that the member opposite is actually saying. And that's just it. You see, Madam Speaker, this is all about games, the Conservative Party, and character assassination consistently. We hear, they talk about this liberal friendly, and they always talk about liberal friendly. Well, take a look at the issue that we've been debating for the last, 12 days now inside the House of Commons. Instead of dealing with issues that Canadians are really concerned with, the Conservatives are more concerned about games. They're concerned about their Conservative Party, and that's it. Not what Canadians and the issues that Canadians have to face. And a good example of that is they say, liberal appointments, and it's for liberal people benefits. And then they criticize, for example, the Annette Verschuren. Annette is the actually chair that was appointed to SDTC, and they constantly say she's a liberal. Yet this is an individual that was an advisor to both Stephen Harper, Brian Mulroney, and Jim Flaherty. Now, these are all Conservatives, Madam Speaker. She is also an individual that contributed thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to the Conservative Party. Yet they will say she's a liberal insider. Madam Speaker, they don't, it does not matter to them. The facts, reality is completely irrelevant. All they want to do is to make people look as bad as possible, even if it's spreading misinformation, and then try to generate cash through misleading emails to Canadians. I'd love to see their email bank. It's got to be 1 million plus, Madam Speaker, in terms of individuals. How they get that data mining? Well, they learn stuff from the United States. This is the far right moving in to the Conservative Party. It's that mega right, Madam Speaker. And they understand how it is that they can milk the system. And that's exactly what the Conservative Party or the Conservative Reform Party is all about, Madam Speaker. And that's the type of thing. When it comes about being responsible, forget that. You have a leader of the opposition that refuses to get a security clearance so that he can actually find out information about foreign interference. Instead, you get members across the way saying, tell us the names, tell us the names. They're crying, tell us the names, even though they know it's illegal for us to do so, but they still say it, Madam Speaker. They know that. All they have to do is tell the leader of the Conservative Party to join with the leader of the NDP, the Bloc, and the Green, and the Prime Minister, and get the security clearance. They do that, he gets to see the 11 names. But I'll bet you something, Madam Speaker, if he saw the 11 names, he won't share them because it would be illegal for him to do so, and he might have to go to jail. So, of course, he's not going to do what it is that his minions are telling him to do, Madam Speaker, by saying, share the names. To me, that's irresponsible. And we have seen that, and I've witnessed it firsthand for years.
Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Okay, well, let's just zero in on that for a second. So we've, of course, said that taking this briefing is a muzzle attempt by them. And that's exactly what the parliamentary secretary said. But what he's also said is that people who reveal secret intelligence should go to jail. Well, come out with your hands up. Reported in the Globe and Mail today, federal officials provided intelligence about India to Washington Post. That's this Liberal government breaking the Canadian Criminal Code. He's a parliamentary secretary for the government. Do you think for a second he's going to get up and condemn the criminality in his own government? Because we've seen it all over the place, whether it's with the Arrive scam or whether it's with this latest scandal where now they're breaching their own national security rules. It's rules for thee, but not rules for me. That's what they say. I'm fascinated that he's interested in getting on the Conservative Party mailing list, but maybe he should open up a book and learn a little something about what goes on in this place. And our job is to represent Canadians, not represent liberal elites like they have with Carbon Tax Carney, who's lined his pockets with the heat pump hustle and who's doing the same thing as a board member at Stripe. They claimed they were cutting credit card fees. Well, that's what the fake finance minister said. But meanwhile, Carney, he's pocketing the cash at Stripe because they're not passing on the savings to consumers. It's all about Liberals helping themselves.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
You can't make this stuff up. Here's what iPolitics has to say. I can't say his name, but the leader of the Conservative Party's approach to national security is complete nonsense, says an expert. Conservative leader blank is playing with Canadians by refusing to get top-level security clearance and receive classified briefings on foreign interference, according to one national security expert. That we're talking about Wesley Wark. Well, Wesley Wark was the security advisor not only for Liberal governments, but also Conservative governments. Madam Speaker, it goes on to say, you know, on the national security issues, said that the Tory leader is knowingly misleading the public by claiming he doesn't need clearance because his chief of staff has received briefings. Duh! How stupid is that, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, I would suggest to you what really needs to happen is that the Conservative Party needs to wake up and do what's right, instruct the leader of the Conservative Party to get that clearance, that security clearance, so he can...
Honourable